All right, let us say hello to one of the big winners from the UFC's recent trip to Fight Island. A lot has happened since his big win in this crazy sport of ours, but let us welcome back Michael Chiesa, who earned a big win over Neil Magny in the main event of UFC Fight Island 8 this past Wednesday. Michael, good to see you, man. All equipped in the studio of yours, looking swell, my man. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back in Spokane, and the wind's finally soaking in a little bit. And yeah, we're in the new studio right now, so should have some podcasts up and going soon. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the win.
Excellent. So we're less than a week removed from this big win, but like I prefaced earlier, it was sort of sandwiched in between the debut on ABC, Max Holloway's incredible performance, and UFC 257, which there's so many storylines that came out of that card. You just fought in a main event. You beat a very tough guy. You had a great call out afterward, but maybe it's just me, Mike. I feel like the win is flying under the radar with everything that has happened. Like, how does this sort of post-fight aftermath compare to some of your other wins in the past?
I'm not too worried about being sandwiched in between two big fights. It doesn't bother me at all. You know what I mean? It just feels good to be in the win column. It feels good to log 4 fights in a row. And it was an honor to be a part of the whole week experience. You can't expect, even if I had like a knockout performance or like maybe I had a fight like Max Holloway's, it's not going to overshadow the main event that we just had at UFC 257. So I'm a realist. It's all good, but I'm very proud of myself. This is like the first fight in my whole career that I've came back and felt like a really strong sense of pride to just pushing through the 5 rounds against a game opponent. I'm proud of myself this time around. So there's a lot to work on, but it was a good experience all in all.
So let's kind of talk about the build to the fight, because first off, the final face-off between you guys was great. Like, you and Neil sort of like mean mugged each other in the friendliest way possible, and then you guys like broke kayfabe, so to speak, and started laughing. It was all respect. And when we spoke before the fight, you were just happy to share the octagon with somebody that you respected so much, and it seemed like that trend continued throughout fight week. Is that sort of fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Neil's just an all-around good guy. I kind of made a post about it. We did a little jersey swap, and he's an Army veteran. He's a father. He's a fierce competitor, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. So everything was good all fight week. Like, we'd run into each other. We'd get a good laugh or something. But when you get locked in an octagon with Neil Magny, it's not going to be all fun and games. He's there to scrap. So it was all fun before and after the fight, but once the octagon door closes, like, we got after it. So he's a solid dude, great competitor, and I'm sure he's going to bounce back just fine.
You came out with a hot start. You dominated the first 2 rounds. You had him on his back for most of it. You had the grappling control. You were just weighing on top of him. You made him work. He made you work as well. But 3rd round, he came out much more aggressive. We saw sort of those glimpses of the Neil Magny everybody expected to see in the fight, but you seemed extremely ready for that. What was the beginning of that 3rd round like for you?
I just assumed at some point that, he was going to get into an advantageous position just because he's tough, he's durable, and he comes on stronger as the fight goes. And I've gone back and watched the fight a couple times. I still don't feel like he won the round. I feel like I pitched darn near a shutout. In the fight, it felt like I lost the 4th. It didn't feel like I lost the 3rd round. The 4th round was the one I thought that might have got away from me, but you just got to expect that from a guy like him. He's look at what he's done against guys like Hector Lombard. He got darn near lost a 10-7 round, and he came back and won. So you got to assume that he's going to take control at some point, and you just can't settle. I knew that if I didn't settle into any bad positions, I knew it wouldn't really be an issue. So, when he took my back, I was able to just kind of maintain posture, get to my feet, use the fence to get up. But yeah, when I go back and watch the fight, I still don't feel like I lost that round, but it's not a big deal if you lose 1 round in a 5-round fight. I won 4, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, I thought you won the 3rd round as well. All 3 judges disagreed with both of us, but it is what it is. I was looking at the numbers early this morning. There's a lot of staggering numbers in regards to this fight, but one that really stuck out to me, you held Neil Magny to 12 significant strikes through 5 rounds. 12, man. And for a guy with the pace and the volume he brings, that is an insane number, man. Did you even know that?
I did not. I haven't really gone through and sifted through all the post-fight articles or the stats and whatnot, but that is pretty crazy. And the thing is, Mike, going into this fight, with it being a 5-round fight and getting the short notice spot for the main event, we didn't really plan on wrestling that soon. You know, we kind of were like, I'm going to feel him out on the feet a little bit. I'm going to use my striking. And as the fight goes on and progresses, I'll push for more takedowns. And, you know, if there's one thing I'm good at, I'm good at creating collisions. Like people in the broadcast, they're saying, you know, why I don't get why he's clinching up with him. And it's like, I force you to clinch with me. That you can't get away from it. I have a niche for being able to form these collisions and get into the positions that I like. But getting that first takedown early, I think I kind of went back into that mode of just like pushing for takedowns. And it is crazy that I held him to only 12 significant strikes. And I got to sprinkle a little bit of my striking there as well. So it felt good, man. It felt good. That main event, just getting that weight off my shoulders and just accomplishing one of the small goals I have along the way was huge for me. So I always want to finish a guy, but I think that sense of pride I have comes from being able to go 5 rounds and dominate from bell to bell, post to post.
It was a great performance. You mentioned in your post-fight scrum, like how tired you were down the stretch, and Rick Little, your head coach, got you all fired up for that 5th round. He just knows you so well to know exactly what to say to you and when to say it. But outside of just that moment, how big was he in between the other rounds and giving you what you needed in those moments to keep you at the level you were competing at?
He's huge, man. I've been with Rick for, this will be 13 years this May. So I started training mixed martial arts, and I started with Rick. So he's seen me essentially grow from a young man to a grown man. You know what I mean? And he just knows how to get in my head. He knows how to say the right things. And, you know, fatigue hit me hard. And watching the fight a couple times and reading my body language, like after the 3rd round, I go right to the post and I rest my hands on the rail. I'm like, taking a big breath. And, you know, I started to show the fatigue, but he knows my style. He knows what I needed to do. And from a tactical standpoint and from a psychological standpoint, you know, when he's telling me, like, if you want to be a effing champion, you need to push these next 5 minutes. Like the types of things that goes beyond the X's and O's of the sport. Sometimes it's about stuff that involves what goes on in here and what's going on in here. And he knows how to get to those places. And I was ready to die in that 5th round, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not trying to sound dramatic, but I just felt when he gave me that speech, like off the stool, I was like, screw it, dude. Just go till you fall. Like, what's there to lose at this point, you know? So I knew if I didn't, you know, I didn't think Neil would finish me, but a 10-8 round, you know, that makes it a dead tie and all that work for nothing. So he knew what to say and he said it right. And that's why he's my head coach. That's why he's the man.
One of the key things from our conversation heading into this fight was you felt like a new man. Like the surgery at the time, it didn't go completely smooth like when it actually went down, but you said that this was the healthiest you had maybe ever been heading into a fight. And, you know, especially being on 2 good legs, which was a little bit different for you. So A, how much did you notice that in the fight? Like, was it something you noticed right away? And B, how much has that affected like the post-fight recovery process?
Everything's good, man. Everything's so good. Like, not dragging my leg behind me through camp and you know, post fight, you know, just the pain in my hip would just get worse and worse. And I mean, I feel great. Like my fiance and Rick, they're keeping me held back from like jumping back into training right now. They're like, dude, give yourself at least a week to just like recover. You know, I think I'm a little banged up, you know, like nothing over the top, but the biggest thing is like everything from the waist down feels great, you know, and that's mainly on the left side of my body. So, just to not have that pain in my hip, not have that pain in my knee, it's just a crazy feeling, you know. And I think that's kind of why I'm in such a rush to get back to training. I'm like, I feel good, like my legs aren't busted up, like I don't need, you know, I need to get my shoulder looked at a little bit, but I don't feel like it's anything major. A couple stitches in my eye, but outside of that, I mean, structurally, I'm still good, and you know, I'm excited for this year. I'm not gonna rush anything. You know, I don't want to fight any earlier than July. There's some big fights that need to play out. You know, so we'll see what happens, but just as of now, I'll get back to training after Wednesday, but you know, I'm going to try to keep myself, I'm going to try to chill out a little bit, enjoy this good feeling.
Was there like a certain point in the fight where you're just like, this feels nice, like not having to drag that, like this is great?
It was before the fight, honestly. It was like during the warm up, I'm like, gosh, I just feel good. Like I've never, so Sam Cecilia was in my corner as well. And after the fight got done, I'm like, man, I just can't explain to you like how good I felt in there. I felt good warming up. Everything felt right. I felt happy. I remember when they're greasing me up, I just remember thinking in my head, I'm like, I love this so much. And I forgot for a year, you know, it was a tough year and I had a long break from the sport. And he's like, you need to go home and write down how that felt to remind yourself down the road, you know, because it was just such a special event for me. Everything felt right. And it was surreal, man. I love this sport so much. It's insane, you know, especially when Neil says things. And I know it's just, you know, the pre-fight jabs, you know, but it's like I want to make him want to stick to commentating or whatever it was. It's like, dude, there's nothing I love more in the world than being a competitor. I love competing. I love getting under the bright lights and laying it on the line. This is who I am. This is what I do, and this is what I love. So it was a very special experience for me, and I'm glad that I feel good mentally and physically.
You get the win. You get the microphone. You call Colby out. It was short and sweet. Election's over. Shtick is up. Let's go. And you said in your scrum that this thing was off the cuff. You shot from the hip, and you know, you've called them out before, but was there like a part of you, because you always have like a name ready. You're not a trash talker, but you always have a name ready. Was there a part of you that always knew like Colby would be the guy? Because yeah, you had done it before, but why do you think if it was off the cuff that you got to that point to fire that second shot in that moment?
I don't know. I think it just jumped in my head. You know what I mean? My manager had said something to me. He's like, "Who are you going to call out after the fight? I think you should call for Colby with the election being done." And this was like at the very beginning when I got to Fight Island. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not even thinking about that. And I put zero thought into it. I just wanted to be focused on Neil. He's just a guy, like, you cannot give him any space. You know what I mean? If I have one lapse in mental focus on him, you know, he might stack that could snowball into something really big. So I just maintained my focus on him. And maybe it's because it was DC, because, you know, last time I had the mic with DC, I did it. I don't know. It just felt right. You know what I mean? And I know it's a tough fight for me. I know, you know, I see what people say, and I know the reality of it is there's a good chance that man can beat me. But how am I going to try to become a world champion if I'm not trying to fight the best guys? You know what I mean? Every underdog has to be an underdog. You know what I mean? It's like, how am I'm not going to be a favorite in all my fights. I wasn't even a favorite in this fight. Everybody's supposed to beat me. I feel like every time I fight, I'm an underdog. So it's like, whatever. Like, I'd rather fight the best guys, lay it on the line to get to my goal. So, you know, I aimed big for that one. I thought it was pretty good. You know, short and sweet, very concise. So we'll see what happens, man. If he gets the Masvidal fight, that's all fine and dandy. But like I said, I'm not fighting any earlier than July. Big fights in the division. We'll see how they shake out, and you know, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I remember the first time he called them out, people are just like, and there's some people who just like poo-poo every idea anyways, like no matter what it is or how brilliant it is, they find something wrong with it. I feel like this time around, a lot of people liked this call out. They liked the idea. They feel if the UFC can't get this fight with Colby and Masvidal going, they're down for it. Like, have you noticed a more positive response this time around?
Yeah, definitely a positive response. And, you know, and that's good it's positive amongst the fans and amongst the media. I'm very happy about that. You know what I mean? It's not that everybody is saying positive things like, oh, I'm going to win. You know, they're just like, wow, I like that match. You know, like that's a fight that makes sense at this point. And I feel like it makes sense. You know, if the Masvidal fight doesn't get done, like who else is there for him to fight? Usman and Burns are booked. Everyone else is booked. And there's me. You know what I mean? Maybe they do him and Wonderboy. Who knows? I don't know. But all I know is it felt right. And there's like a little storyline in the sense that he wrestled at Oregon State and one of his coaches was Kevin Roberts. And when I wrestled in high school, I never went to college for wrestling. I wasn't even that good in high school, but my head coach was Dusty Roberts, Kevin's brother. So there's just this kind of like, there's like a Northwest connection in a sense. And it would get the wrestling community between Washington and Oregon very invested. And you know how much I'm all about the wrestling community, man. I think it would make some waves. You know, let's find out who the toughest guy in the Northwest is. Let's find out who the toughest welterweight in the Pacific Northwest is. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, people dig that idea. The other popular choices that I've seen, I mean, I host a matchmaking podcast, so people throw ideas at us all the time. So Wonderboy is a popular one. Demian Maia being his final opponent is a popular one. So, I mean, not as big as Colby, but I mean, is there something to like with both of those options, I guess?
With Wonderboy, yes. Not with Demian. I'm not going to be a part of somebody's swan song, man. That's just not how it's going to work. You know what I mean? Not to mention, I'm on a 4-fight win streak right now. I'm surging. That just doesn't make any sense for me. And I think Damian's a hell of an athlete. He's, that would be like, the passing of the torch, the best grappler in the division. But it doesn't really. There's no interest there, and that would never happen. If he should fight Diego Sanchez or Cowboy Cerrone or one of those guys and have that be his last fight. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to end your career on a loss. So I would rather he just, that's a fight that doesn't make sense for us.
It makes, good answer. Good answer.
It's not, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's like, I've already fought the guys that are kind of like, the old guard. I've been there, you know what I mean? And I don't need to go back there. I just fought a contender. I fought a guy that's the second all-time wins leader at welterweight. It's time for me to go to the top of the heap. It's time for me to get a shot at the top of the mountain. I earned it. I deserved it. 4 fights in a row, 4 tough wins. Like, I'm looking at a top 5 guy, and that's it.
You and Wonderboy for the NMF title. That sounds like a lot of fun.
He's such a good guy, and he's a hell of a fighter. That would be a fun fight for sure. And if the Colby fight falls through, then may the nicest mother effer win.
There you go. We're hang on to that quote, because I have a feeling we might need that one. Well, I do want to get your thoughts on a few things, Mike, if you don't mind, sir. I got to talk to you about Dustin Poirier and that massive win over Conor McGregor. Everyone else looked at this fight in a very similar way. If it ends quick, it's a Conor night. If we play the long game, it's a Poirier night. You told me it will be either a KO of the year for Conor or Poirier would win the fight of the year. What we got was a KO of the year contender from Dustin Poirier in just over 7 minutes into the fight. So what did you think of that performance? How did you react to it as you were watching it?
Man, I love Dustin Poirier. Such a good guy, such a good man, good ambassador for the sport. And, it's easy to get sold and caught into the hype. I mean, this is Conor McGregor we're talking about. This guy has done some phenomenal things in the octagon. He's had some stellar performances. His career has basically been one big highlight reel. But the best prediction that I heard out of anybody was Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad freaking hit the nail on the head. Like, give that guy some credit. That guy nailed it. Like, Poirier's more hungry. This guy has been active. He's been fighting the toughest fights. Conor's last fight before this one, no disrespect to my guy Cowboy Cerrone, but he 0-4 in his last few fights, and it's not. That was a very favorable matchup for Conor, and I think it's easy to get caught in the hype. You know what I mean? So I'm very, very happy for Dustin Poirier. He deserves it. And, on that note, it's good that, I have a jacket that I had signed that I'm auctioning off at the Good Fight Foundation. Comes with a Zoom call and a bunch of other cool things. And, I'm not a big money generator like the superstars of the sport, but I want to help any way I can. So, I got a link in my bio on my Instagram. So if anybody wants to throw a bid on that, auction this jacket off, help some kids that are in need, that'd be great. Thank you, Dustin Poirier, for the opportunity to join the Good Fight Foundation.
That's very cool. I was going to ask you about that. So there you go. Go to Michael Chiesa's Instagram page and feel that out. From like an analytics perspective, people are talking about the leg kicks Poirier was landing, and they were ferocious, and they were a huge difference in that second round. I don't know about you. I wanted to get your take on this because you know way more than I do. I thought that takedown in the first round was the biggest point of that fight. Like, I think it made Conor work. And when you have two guys at this level, Dean Thomas says it all the time, it's whoever makes the first mistake. And not necessarily that Conor made a mistake here, but that takedown just gave Conor a little something extra to think about. Opened up the leg kick game a little bit more. I thought that takedown and making Conor work a little bit extra in that first round was such a difference maker, and it opened things up for a more open game plan in the second round with the leg kicks and then the striking to cap off the fight. How big was that takedown in your opinion? Am I putting too much stock into that?
No, you're not putting too much stock into it at all. What Dustin Poirier did very good was got Conor thinking about everything going on from the waist down. The leg kicks, the takedown. It opened up it made Conor start to focus his hands from here to here. And Conor's on the shell guy, but just as an emphasis, his hands are coming from here down here. He's starting to try to catch the leg kick. And that's one thing that's when something's starting to work, is when they're getting to a point where they can't check it and they're starting to reach for it. And that opens up the headshots a lot more. I think one thing that Dustin did very well was he timed the lazy. Conor threw a few lazy punches, like threw a few lazy jabs. Dustin did a very good job pulling and countering and just firing off of Conor's shots. Like, you have to do that against Conor McGregor. Like, if he throws a lazy punch at you or he even touches you with one, you have to fire back immediately. Otherwise, he's going to start to steamroll off of that. So Dustin did a good job timing a few of those lazy jabs, pulling and countering, landed some good punches, landed the leg kicks. He just showed he has a full arsenal of tools that he can use to win a fight, especially against a guy like Conor McGregor.
So now there's this debate going around about who Dustin should fight next, because the man has options now. He could fight for the title. Khabib is not coming back. At least if he does, it won't be anytime soon. I'd be shocked if that happened. He could fight Michael Chandler, very popular choice after Saturday. And, you know, there's a lot of support around Charles Oliveira getting that title shot, even though deserving really means anything in the sport in this day and age, which is unfortunate. But Poirier likes a third fight with McGregor. He likes the Oliveira idea. He also likes the Nate Diaz idea. And if you've been following the social media scene over the last 48 hours or so, Nate likes that idea as well. So what do you want to see from like a fight fan perspective? What do you think we will see here?
I would like to see Nate versus Dustin, but that doesn't make any sense at all. That would be a slap in the face to some of the guys that are coming off wins. You know, and when it comes to the title picture, sometimes that gets overlooked. We've seen Yoel Romero get title shots off losses and things of that sort. But I think you got to keep the ball rolling with the trilogy. I think you got to do Dustin and Conor. You can't risk Conor going out. Like, if it was up to me, I'd go Nate Diaz versus Poirier, and then I would go Gaethje versus Conor. But then that you're always going to have the Nate Diaz trilogy with Conor. That's going to be there for life. You know, that fight was at a totally separate weight class. So it doesn't matter how their careers go. You can make that happen at any point. But you can't guarantee that Conor beats another contender. You know what I mean? He has great skills, but this is a very tough division. So I think that don't risk losing the option for this Dustin Poirier Conor McGregor trilogy. I think you make that one next, and then you do Chandler and Oliveira, and then you do Hooker Nate Diaz. I think that's what makes the most sense. Or you go Conor McGregor versus Paul Felder. That's just my take. And that there's something there. You know what I mean? I think there's something there, and you know, there's been some jabs. There could be some good pre-fight buildup, and it would be funny to hear Bruce Buffer say Paul the German Dragon Felder if he actually stuck to that.
Oh my God. Louder reaction from you on Saturday. Poirier's win, Chandler's win, or Juliana Pena's win?
Juliana Pena, man. Julie Pena all day. Yeah, man. That's my girl. She looked good. She's had a tough road in the UFC, man. She's fought some hitters. She's beat a lot of hitters, you know, and she said it best. Like, she's winning these fights, and she just makes one tactical error, and it's costed her against Valentina, and it cost her against Drain Durandamine. But who's left for Amanda? You know what I mean? There really is nobody left. And I think that's just a fight to make. And there might be a bias there, but even if I wasn't teammates with Juliana Pena, I'm still looking at the title picture. That's the fight that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think that you give her Amanda Nunes. We'll see what happens with the Megan Anderson fight. And this is a division where, you know, females don't have to be on a long win streak to get a title shot. You just need one signature win. And I feel like that is the signature win she needed. She just submitted Sarah McMahon, who's a silver medalist in the Olympics. She threw her to her back in the third round. I mean, had a nice Iranian, stepped across, threw her really good. You know, I think give her a title shot. Why not? And why not Julie? I mean, Amanda's cleaned out. You know, she's cleaned out everyone in the division but her, I feel like. And I feel like we wouldn't be having this conversation had she beat Durandamine. She would have locked herself in as the next contender. So she's got a big one under her belt. Let's go Julie Pena.
Yeah, she needed that one. That was a great performance. Last thing I want to discuss before we let you go, because you have from like our past conversation, you have a pretty unique perspective on this fight. UFC 258, Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns for the welterweight title. And, you know, Usman's looked unbeatable for a long time. Burns has surged up the ranks to earn the shot. You know, first half of 2020, Gilbert Burns is everybody's fighter of the year before everything just sort of halted for him, waiting for this fight to happen. And there's a lot of story here, but from your perspective, what are your thoughts on this fight? Because you have this really tough to beat champion taking on a guy who you feel, when it's all said and done, in Gilbert Burns, that Gilbert Burns could be your competitive and like respectful rival / arch nemesis when it's all said and done. Like, you feel like you and Gilbert Burns are going to have this like respectable history between yourselves. Like, you told me this before, like you have this feeling that you and Gilbert are going to have this long history together. How do you view this fight?
I tell you what, me and Burns would be a hell of a fight. You know what I mean? That guy, you want to talk about, you know, that guy next to Colby, those are my two toughest matchups, I feel like. You know, Burns, because he's got such good jiu-jitsu, man. It's insane. You watch his gi jiu-jitsu matches, and it's violent. The guy is violent. Everywhere a fight goes, he is just violent, high pace, hits hard, very well coached. I mean, anybody from Sanford MMA is, you know, you're in for a tough-ass fight. But when it comes to this matchup with Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns, we will. I feel like you never see these teammates versus teammate fights. I still have this build as that, given that Usman's on training in Denver under the tutelage of Trevor Whitman. But you know, Gilbert's so dynamic. He can knock you out. He can submit you, like a true dual threat. You know, he can really do it all. You know, but Burns, he's solid. He can take a shot, and he has championship level experience. He's been a very dominant welterweight champion. I feel like this win over Burns could put him over the top as arguably one of the greatest welterweight champions we've ever seen. So, you know, and the one thing that Burns has done, and he did that in his last fight with Tyron Woodley, is he showed he can keep a pace for 5 rounds. He showed, you know, and in the past, and it could have been the cut to 155 pounds, you know, he could keep a good pace, but there was some fights where he did fade, but that is not the case now. He's at welterweight. I mean, the guy's an animal. He can train hard. He can bring that ferocity, and he can do it from the first minute of the fight to the last second of the 5th round. The guy can push a hard pace. So I think he's going to push Usman to his limit, and it's hard. That's a hard one to pick. So my bias sways towards Gilbert Burns, you know, and we'll see what happens. I'll be watching very closely, but, you know, may the best man win. It's going to be a fun fight for us.
I agree. You are the man, Mike. I could talk to you about fist fighting all day long, my man. It's you know what? I'm just going to do this. You called out Colby. You shot your shot. Someday, and I'm not just buttering you up, I want to see a world, Mr. Chiesa, where it's the Mike and Mike MMA podcast. Like, forget DC and Helpani. Forget those guys over at ESPN. Someday in the future, you and I are going to share a studio together and talk fist fighting for like an hour a week. I just have a feeling that's one of my career goals, Mike. I feel like you and I get a little vibe going on here. But listen, thank you for the time as always. Congratulations on the win. Next fight should be a big one for you, and I'm excited to see how this plays out, my man.
Awesome, Mike. I agree with you. Mike and Mike's show sounds great, and thank you for having me on as always, brother. It was good to talk to you.
Thanks, brother. Take care.